Hello everyone and welcome to the 50K Q&A special thing that I decided to do where I took questions on my Tumblr, Instagram, and the YouTube community tab and I answer them here. Yeah, so this has been a big surprise to me, reaching 50K. Didn't think I'd get this far, especially since I don't really upload regularly, but you know, I'm grateful nonetheless. Really happy to have all of you here have this much interest in anything I do is bananas, to say the least, but I hope I could, deliver, and boy, am I trying. Anyway, the reason why I decided to take questions beforehand was it just trying to plan out another live stream would have been very difficult this month since I got a lot going on and my house isn't the most quiet and there's a lot of potential of interruptions and such. But anyway, and I thought this would be more concise, more organized, less of me fumbling with my words as I do, less potential of fuck ups, I guess. This way there'd be less chance of, any kind of technical difficulties. I mean, I got a new mic, just so the next time I do stream, it won't be a freaking disaster like the 20K or 25K one that I did several months ago. Anyway, I hope you all like it just the same. I mean, I put a little thing for you guys to watch. Just another plus. You get to see my progress on the Wolfsong prequel video in the background. I mean, I chose to show a scene that won't be that, spoilery, I guess, or I mean, not that there's really anything to spoil, but, just so you see a bit of something while I answer these lovely questions. Anyway, so here's how it's gonna go. I'm gonna answer some questions, and then I'm gonna move on to some very important, exciting kind of updates at the latter part of the video. So questions, then updates. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to some of your questions. Oh, and let me preface this also by saying that, if I missed a question or it didn't get answered here, I'm like really sorry. I actually had to take the questions I had a bit earlier than when I said I'd, close it because I could only record today on a Wednesday. Any other day would have been a bit more difficult. So if I didn't get to answer your question, I'm sorry. If it's on Tumblr, I'll answer it there for sure. I answer all my questions. Yeah. I answer all the questions I get on Tumblr. And, if you want to see more of me answering questions, I also recommend my Tumblr. I have an answered tab on my Tumblr page if you go to it. If you're on browser, you could find it. Otherwise, you could just search the hashtag answered and you'll see every question I've answered ever on Tumblr. Most of them are Wolfsong related and some are Heidi related and, we have fun there. Anyway. Moving on. So first question comes from, I guess this counts as housekeeping or whatever you want to call it. I did get questions about whether or not there is a part 2 to Wolfsong / when will it be done. The first of it being from Lavi on YouTube asking, will there be a part 2 to the Wolfsong? I guess you didn't see the little preview clip that did like a year ago, maybe longer. I suck. Anyway, there is a preview clip for the prequel that counts as, I guess, a part 2 to Wolfsong. So yes, if you're not up to speed or anything, or maybe you thought that was just a thing I did and I'm never gonna continue it, which, I guess you're not completely wrong to assume. I've been working on it on and off. But yes, there will be a part 2 to the Wolfsong. It's called Never Talk to Strangers, based on the song from the Red Riding Hood film of 1975. I'm probably off. Anyway, I always wanted to animate it, and it takes place before the events of Wolf Song, and it's way less dark, I think. It's a bit more uplifting, and I really wanted to use it as a chance to kind of showcase what I can fully do in terms of animation, because pretty much like 90% of what's on my channel is incomplete, rushed. I would call it garbage, but everybody, you guys like it, so I'm not gonna say what you like is just trash. It's trash to me, but I want to just actually, you know, finish something and put it out there, and it's taking a while, but you know, it's coming. Okay, next question. So B Natty _17 on Instagram asked, how is the Do Not Talk to Strangers video going? So the Never Talk to Strangers video is going. It's going. I've run into some issues. The thing is, I went from the thumbnails to just going right ahead with the rough animation. I skipped the whole clean, like, storyboarding process, so it's like a fool because I wanted to, you know, cut corners, I guess, and now I'm paying for it because some scenes I'm realizing aren't super working the way I wanted them to, or I think of something better for that particular sequence, but... Regardless, it's going pretty okay. The only problem I'm having really is this scene where Scarlet and Lycos are dancing together, because they do that. I'm determined to make it work, so I'm doing it, but it's complicated. You try animating two people dancing, it's like, oh boy, not easy, at least not for me. But, you know, I'm determined, and it's gonna happen, so it's going. Thank you for asking. Oh, by the way, I'm going to pronounce his name this way because I recently gave the characters full names, like a last name too, and they both have German last names. So I figured for consistency's sake, I'd pronounce his name, which I know is pronounced Lycos because it's of Greek origin. I put it in the German translator just to see how a German person would pronounce it, like his full name, and it sounded like Lycos Vollmond or Volmond. I'm probably off with my pronunciation. If I could, I'll just insert a audio file of how the German lady of Google Translate pronounced it. It's she pronounced it, the sound clip sounded like Lycos, so I'm like, okay, and it's more, I guess, natural on my tongue. It flows more, but feel free to, you know, pronounce it Lycos or, you know, whatever works for you. I'm not a stickler. I'm not going to be like, oh no, it's this way when, you know, originally it's not. But anyway, just, you know, for consistency's sake, I'm pronouncing it how a German person would pronounce it or read it. Anyway, so I'm going to keep reading it like that. Okay. Yeah, and I pretty much got two other questions asking about when I think Wolf Song will be finished. Alika or Alicia, I'm not sure. I'm going to butcher a lot of your names and usernames. I'm sorry. So Alicia, or Alika, whichever it is, I'm sorry, basically asked when the sequel will be out. And they're not the first person to ask, for sure. In the past, I've given like a certain time frame of when it'll be like, oh, you know, this month or this month. And every single time without fail, just never works out, or it's never prepared for that month, or never finished, and I feel like shit after, and I feel like a liar. So I'm just, you know, animation takes a long time, especially when you're one person. So I'm, you know, it's finished when it's finished, but, you know, I'm hoping, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm hoping it'll be finished sometime in or near the end of December, if everything goes according to plan, which it seldom does. But yeah, that's what I hope, but I'm not, you know, not confirming. Basically, it's finished when it's finished, and I'm really sorry for the wait, but I'm doing my best. Brittany Bain asks, like, if it does kick off to a sequel, what will happen next? Well, what happens in Never Talk to Strangers is Scarlet, 10-year-old Scarlet, is, you know, on her way to grandma's, and on the way, she meets a stranger, who is Lycos, the strange man in the woods, who's really friendly to her, and, you know, basically a song breaks out of, you know, how you shouldn't talk to strangers. And I guess, you know, maybe some I don't know if I wanted to call it romantic tension because she's 10 years old. And that'd be weird. But however you want to, interpret that. Some tension of some kind happens. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So, moving on. Adam on YouTube asks, how did you get the idea of making Wolf Song? I answered this in the Wolf Song Speed Paint and Explain sort of video I did a while back, around the time when Wolf Song was just like coming into the crazy popularity and viewership it did. And I mean, so I won't go too much into it, but the long and short of it is I got the idea from the song, from Omnia's song, basically. And and then I went through with it for what would be my graduation project, and that's how it came to be. Yeah, I had another similar question on YouTube from Griffin Girl 13 saying, congrats first of all. Oh, thank you. And second, how long were you inspired to make a video for Wolf Song? Did you immediately get the idea after hearing the song for the first time? Yes. Yes, I did. That's exactly how it happened, actually. A friend introduced me to the song, and I remember we were just listening to it nonstop, or at least I was for sure, but we were just like, oh my god, this song's really good. And I remember also talking to her, having a back and forth of how we interpreted the song. And if you go back in my Tumblr in the Wolf Song tag, you'll find the very first drawing I did of my wolf character and my Red Riding Hood character. And I well, obviously I hate it now, but it was like that's the first image I drew of them, like soon after listening to that song on repeat. Maybe I'll pop it up here just so you guys can see. But yeah, basically I got the idea immediately after. I think I've always been a bit more figurative with my ideas. And I wanted to, make a thing with it. But I always get ideas listening to music, and I really rarely act on them. And it would be the first time I actually go through with making a thing that based on an idea I had from a song, Like in the past, I'm always like, oh, it'd be cool if I made like an animatic about this, but I didn't know how to make an animatic. And then one day I decided, fuck it, I'll just, go based on what I've seen. Like I had like barely any knowledge of even how animatics worked and everything, and I just did it anyway. So sometimes you just gotta do the thing, and you never know, right? So even if it sucks, some person or some people in this case are going to love it, or it's going to inspire them in some way. So, my little bit of advice for the day is even if you think it's going to suck, or even if you think like, oh, I'm not qualified to make this thing, just do the thing anyway. What's the worst that could happen, really? If it sucks, whatever. Even if you think it sucks, some people aren't going to think it sucks. Believe me. Because I don't really super love anything I do, but other people love it like so much more, and I'm not going to take that away from them. Anyway, Lunar Sailor on YouTube asks, are the people in Wolf Song going to fall in love, or were they ever in love? And keep up the amazing work. Aw, thanks. And please never give up on making good content. Aw, double thanks. I'll try. I don't think I'm ever going to give up making stuff. Whether or not it's good is up to you guys. But thank you. I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. So to answer your question, in the context of what I have planned, I'm not gonna confirm anything in the video, the film or whatever. I'm leaving up to you guys to interpret. I'm not gonna take any of that away. But for what I have planned for them, yeah, their love is involved. It's going to happen, whether it's one-sided or both. That's left to be seen. But come on, you guys know. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. There's definitely going to be love involved. They're going to probably, very likely, fall in love. So yeah, it's hard because I don't want to give anything away, but at the same time, it's a bit obvious. I don't know. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, or at least gives you some hope. This next question comes from Tumblr, from awesome person Shayla La Lu, who every time I read your name it's a trip. She says, for the Q&A, what things have led to Lycos and Scarlet becoming fleshed out characters instead of just metaphors, i.e., what stories, interpretations, theories, etc. made you view them differently? This is a good question. Well, for one thing, giving them names, immediately they went from metaphor to character. Because metaphors don't really have, names, I guess. Or even just giving them a last name recently was a big step too. Like, they felt even more real to me. Or more like, okay, these are people. What stories, interpretations? I mean, I don't think I could really pinpoint exact, because there have been a lot of people throwing theories my way in regards to their and interpretations. I try to not super borrow from, I guess, from fans, because I know that's a pretty dangerous game. I try to keep things relatively my own, but for stories, I think it's, well, okay, for one thing, for stories, I read a lot of young adult fantasy, and I thought about how it's hard to do a fresh take on the Little Red Riding Hood story, and make it, your own and different in some way, because it's very much been done to death. But because I read a lot of young adult fantasy, and right now what's really big is like fae and fairies and all that, I thought about, okay, well, Lycos is like pretty much the same age from the prequel to the events of Wolf's Song, right? And that was a decision that just happened because I wanted to make the prequel sort of make sense with the song I was using. I had to age down Scarlet to make it work, because she's kind of, she has a little girl voice and everything. But in doing that, I sort of made him an immortal character. So I was like, how the fuck did he get this way? And it made me think about, maybe he was cursed, lycanthropy is usually a curse, right? So thinking about pulling from different things like, I guess werewolf lore, even though in the beginning people calling him like, oh, he's a werewolf or a vampire, it kind of made me like, no, he's just a wolf, because in the beginning, yeah, he's a metaphor, he's a wolf. But now that he's a character, I was like, okay, I guess, I have to go a bit more objective here and be like, yeah, okay, he's immortal. And I guess, technically he's a werewolf, or he suffers from lycanthropy of some kind. And that kind of was more in line with what some people were already theorizing. So some things just sort of happened that way. But a lot of it was me thinking like, okay, well, she seems to get along with him when she's 10 in the beginning. And then later when she's 16 or 17, something's up, something went wrong. So what were the events from point A to point B? Like, did he kill her grandma? Did he not? I also read Image Comics Fables. The game The Wolf Among Us is based on it, so maybe some of you are more familiar with that, where the wolf character is like the same wolf from both Little Red Riding Hood and The Three Little Pigs. And basically any wolf ever in any fable. And he has like, what do they call it? This kind of magic that kind of, makes him appear as a person or whatever. And he pretty much stays that way. And I like what they did with that concept of like, this guy, he's just trying to be better, trying to get, not get along with everybody, but, he's trying to just be better. And he has this past, and some things he can't help because it's in his nature, right? I hope I'm making sense. So it's like I borrow from very various aspects of different media, primarily media involving wolves, and also thinking about, how to make Scarlet less of a damsel and more of her own person. Like, how was she when she was 10 versus how she was when she's 16, and how people could change so much from how they are as a kid, or certain events could just drastically change a person's character. Been thinking a lot about that. But I think I recall you, actually, Shayla, you drew some stuff with Scarlet with an axe, and just like hitting Lycos with an axe. Hitting's not a word for this situation, like, just brutalizing him. And it also sort of influenced my thought of, oh, I should probably, that a scene like that could be really fun in a really angsty way, I guess. I mean, angst is fun. See, little things like that, even you and people contributing, sometimes it does stick with me when people expand on things that I mention or things from the story, from what's already available or what they can grab from the current canon material that I have, I guess. And yeah, I think that's super fun too. And also songs help a lot with fleshing out characters too. I'm going on a big tangent, holy shit. But yeah, I mean, the long and short of it is, like, a lot of you guys come up with some neat concepts, and I do my best to not be really derivative with some of your concepts, because yeah, that's, dangerous territory. But well, some of it does stick in the back of my mind, or I think, oh, actually, yeah, that is a neat idea, maybe I'll tweak that. It makes me kind of view my characters in a different way, not even just with Wolfsong, but recently with Heidi. There was an anonymous user on Tumblr that made me think differently about the boy who dies in Heidi, made me give him a name. His name's Keith now. And then other people giving a name to the other boy that follows Heidi. His name's Thomas Todd now, and now he's more of a character. Going back to the whole names thing, names do a lot. Names make you, like, think of the origin, makes you think of the culture, makes you think, like, behind the name, then makes you think of, like, the kind of character they are based on the name you give them. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to see other people's, sometimes people send me their theories through Tumblr or via, like, an ask or submission, and I share them. So if you go on my Tumblr page and just search the Wolfsong tag, they should all come up. And I mean, you could see, I guess, sometimes through conversation where I sort of change my view on some things regarding my characters. Also, Shayla made a really neat Spotify playlist based on Wolfsong, and you all should check it out. And I'm gonna probably link it in the description or something. Probably. Yeah, it's gonna be in the description. And yeah, it's super cool, and it's also been helping me write some stuff, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, thanks so much for the question, and for all you contribute, Shayla. I see you. AllieWolf45. Oh, hey. AllieWolf45 on Tumblr asks, where does Lycos live other than alone in the woods? Has he found an abandoned shack, or has he dug a den perhaps? Also, has he been deceiving Scarlet for 7 years? Because it seems they met when she was 10, of course, in the prequel, and in Wolfsong it seems as though they might have been away from each other for a while. But in the flashbacks or stalking memories, she doesn't look much younger than her 17-year-old self. So have they been friends the full 7 years? See, it's questions like these that prompt me to think more about my characters. And Allie Wolf in particular, I believe, has asked a lot of questions that have made me think, and kind of, they act sort of like prompts for me to sort of even dive deeper, because I feel like a pleb. Sometimes I'm like, I didn't think about that. And in this case, yeah, some of this I didn't think about, so thank you for asking me, because now I'm gonna think about it. So from the top of my head, okay, because I haven't thought about where Lycos lives just yet. He's definitely alone in the woods, yes, but he definitely has a den. I think he, like, has an area, because the thing is, the wolves don't accept him and the people don't accept him, so I think he's forced to sort of build his own sort of den out of, like, whatever is available, like, over time. It's sort of, I kind of picture it as sort of this half cave, half shack kind of thing. Like maybe a marriage of the two. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm probably going to have to design it. That's going to be fun. Has he been deceiving Scarlet for 7 years? Because it seems they met when she was 10. I think it started off definitely him trying to deceive her. And then somewhere along the way, he had a change of heart. Maybe? I'm not saying maybe because I'm, like, trying to be like, oh no, I don't know, or like I'm trying to be coy. I'm trying to also, I don't want to give away the whole plot or whatever I have of it that I have in mind. it's definitely, he had some bad intentions in the beginning, but somewhere along he kind of changes his mind, but at the same time he's sort of in this constant fight with himself of whether or not to really to care about her, I guess, and what that means, and how he's dangerous and he shouldn't even, it's a struggle for him. So yeah, long and short of it is, it definitely started off where he wanted to where he was deceiving her, trying to deceive her, and then shit happens and things change, basically. In the flashbacks, it's sort of like he starts seeing her again, because there's going to be this whole period where he's not in her life, or they don't see each other for a while until she's like 16, 17. I mean, maybe I'm gonna throw up, actually. I'm gonna throw up. No, I'm gonna put up maybe an image of this idea I had. This is never before seen on any social media page. I was going to save it for a thing that I will mention later. But when I was thinking of an in-between moment where Lycos first spots 16, 17-year-old Scarlet, and he makes the connection of, oh, wait, is that her? Like, is that little girl from years ago? From like, what, 6, 7 years ago? Are they the same person? And he makes that connection, and it's gonna be such a moment or something. Or I really want to fucking write and draw that moment, and I sort of did in this little shitty sketch that I'll probably put up. And if I don't put it up here, feel free to berate me in the comments, being like, where is it, Dany? So yeah, that's when the stalking commences. I don't know what it is about leading male characters in my films and stalking women, but I don't condone it, that's for sure. I'm like sweating nervously. Like, what does this mean? So yeah, they haven't been necessarily friends for the full 7 years, but they do know each other to a degree. Hope that answers your question. And thank you for the question. I had 2 questions regarding Lycos's design. One was from Lit Freezing Wolf 1407 on Instagram, who asked, how did you come up with the design for our incredibly handsome boy Lycos? And another was also on Instagram from x._the white wolf. Okay, well, the white wolf, who asked, what's the inspiration behind Lycos's design? I'm not sure if I answered this in the Speed Paint and Explain video. Probably not. Maybe I answered this on Tumblr a while ago. But anyway, if I'm not being consistent, let me know. His design, primarily, okay, his hairspiration is definitely based, sort of to resemble wolf ears that are kind of flopped, I guess. I wanted them to resemble ears, but without being actual ears, because that's, like, cliche. So I had fun with his hair. That's one thing. His design he's sort of like an amalgamation of every anime guy who's like sort of ethereal in some way, like whether they're like a demon or like a fox guy or something. You know what I mean? And they have those like bedroom eyes. You know what I'm talking about. Like, he's like if Sebastian from Black Butler and Tomoe from Kami-sama Kiss like had a love child and he was raised by wolves or something. And that's how he came to be. I don't know. I've always sort of gravitated towards those characters and those kind of designs and that sort of presence that's kind of alluring, but I'm dangerous. And their eyes are like not normal or something. So that's basic. It's a lame answer, but that's that's the inspiration behind his design. Those strange male fantasy anime characters that have bedroom eyes. And are dangerous in some way. Yeah. But also, like, the many interpretations of humanized wolf characters from many media. Like, they always have this sort of, like, unkempt but suave sort of look. You know what I mean? There's been many, like, interpretations of the wolf character in Red Riding Hood, and that's usually the common ground. And that's why his whole cloak is all tattered and his collar's unbuttoned and all that, and you see a bit of that chest. Pinstripe pants. It's not exactly matching, but it sort of goes together. The fingerless gloves. He's sort of like a classy homeless man. That's his design. There you go. I kind of, I feel like people are going to be very disenchanted with his design after this, but that's the truth. That's the truth. And hope I'm being consistent with what I tell people. They could always go to this video and know the truth. And that's it. And thank you both for the question. On Tumblr, a man of Flamenca? A man of Flamancha? I'm sorry. What inspired you to start the concept of Heidi? Oh yeah, I realized, you know what? I didn't do a speed paint and explain video for Heidi. I think I should, since it has over 2 million views, and even I think for the Wolf Song one, it wasn't even 1 million before I did that video. So maybe I should make a video of that. If you're interested in that, let me know. If not, I'll do my best to dive deep with this question. What inspired you to start the concept of Heidi? Well, what inspired me initially was the approaching deadline that was my second year film, for a concept. I had to pitch a concept for my second year film, and the first pitch I had, my teacher did not like at all, and I was pretty stressed about it. I believe it was either Valentine's Day or Valentine's Day weekend. I was with my boyfriend and we happened upon this restaurant, which turned out to be a stupid expensive sushi restaurant, like one of those really fancy restaurants where they give you like a tiny little fucking portion of whatever the fuck, and it's like you're tasting something different every time, and the plates are like fucking $100-$200. Yeah, anyway, that's a memory. I'm remembering this vividly because this is this is literally how it happened. So we're both there, and we're both like having a moderately good time, just enjoying each other's company, trying not to think of how expensive this bill is going to be. And this restaurant had they were playing really dope music, like music I like synth pop stuff. They had like lots of synth pop going on, like, Cut Copy and St. Vincent and all that. And then I heard Oblivion, and at the time I didn't know this song. Actually, this is the first time I actually happened upon a song by Grimes, and I was listening to it because throughout the evening I was listening to some of these songs, and I was kind of writing them down because all you have to do if you want to know what a song is, and you just find a specific lyric, write it down, and then Google that lyric or lyrics later, and the song will inevitably pop up. And that's my kind of how I do that. But with this one, I couldn't quite get the lyrics. I don't know if it's because at the time there were a lot of people talking and I couldn't quite listen to it. So I called over the waiter and I was like, what is this song? And they were like looking at me like I'm the only person who's ever asked about what any song was that was playing. So he leaves, he looks at the playlist, he comes back, and he tells me Grimm's Visions Oblivion. And I'm like, okay, cool. And that's how I wrote it. And thankfully I was able to find the song later despite how he pronounced it. So then I hear the song and I'm like, and that night I fucking listened to it and I'm like, oh my god, I have my idea. Like immediately, similarly to Wolf Song, hearing Oblivion, I was starting to get this idea like immediately, and it like played out in my head and I was like, oh, thank God. And yeah, that's what inspired me to start the concept of Heidi. It was pressure and a beautiful coincidence of Grimes just coming into my life right at the right moment and just handing me some inspiration when I needed it the most. And I think I was pulling a lot from horror media because I love horror and I also love 80s stuff. And I wanted to do something just very different from anything I did up to that point, but also something that was very me. I didn't even really think about it, but it's sort of a subversion of Wolf Song, where with Wolf Song you have man preying on woman, and this you have woman preying on man. Or men, as it were. That's neat. I didn't even intend for that, but then later I'm like, oh, hey, neat. What a coincidence. So yeah, that's what inspired me to start it, and the rest is history. Okay, so on Instagram, Remon Doll, not a question, just wrote more Heidi. Yeah, I'm planning on more Heidi. Whether it's a prequel or a sequel, that's left to be seen, but I have some songs in mind. It's going to be a lot later, though, unfortunately. I have to get this first Wolf Song prequel done, and then I have so many ideas, you guys. It's like a battle in my brain of priority right now, but it's gonna happen, and I'll get to that even more later on in this video. But yeah, thank you for the comment, I guess. It's good to know where the demand is. Okay, so we're on the last stretch here, last few questions. Okay, Soul Code on YouTube asks, are we human, or are we, in fact, dancers? It's a very good question. And I get the reference. I too listen to The Killers. I believe we can be both. Why not both? But yeah, so to answer your real question, how was your college? Where did you go? So first I went to, in case you guys don't know, I'm from Canada. I've gone to school my whole life in Montreal, Quebec. So all these schools, I don't expect anybody to be familiar with them. For college, I went to La Salle College and in the program of art and design, which was interesting to say the least. It was a guinea pig program, so I didn't necessarily learn a whole lot. I had to teach myself a whole lot, or I just sort of coasted and it worked out. But that is where Wolfsong came to be near the end. But again, no one taught me anything about animatics. I just decided I'm gonna do that. Presently, I'm at Concordia University, or more specifically, Mel Hoppenheim School of Cinema within Concordia University, learning film animation. And that's how I've been learning how to animate and do things properly for the most part. Actually learning how to do a proper animatic. And yeah, I mean, I'm almost done here. I'm pretty much done all my animation classes. And I expect to graduate in the spring. I expect, if everything goes as planned. As for how it was or how it is, I learned quite a bit. More so than my time at La Salle, that's for sure. But it's a little disappointing. I mean, I'm not going to go on too much about it. I'm not going to roast my school, but I'm a bit disappointed. But at the same time, a degree is a degree, and I did learn quite a bit. I didn't not learn anything, I'm a better artist now than I was when I was back in La Salle, so that's something. I did grow as an artist, but I didn't necessarily learn as much as I wanted to, and I feel like I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do, I guess, within this program. But otherwise, pretty okay, pretty swell. And I mean, would I recommend it or not? That's a topic for a whole other time. But yeah, thank you for asking. Lover of Night on YouTube asks, what's your favorite art program to use, or is it worth buying software like Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint? Keep up the great art and work. Aw, thanks. So to answer your question, I think honestly, for a long time I was bootlegging a lot of my programs. I know, yikes, right? Shame. But, once I got a job, and I realized bootlegging programs also, you're subject to a lot of things that just happen, like crashes and things not working, and it super sucks. So ultimately, paying for programs is always worth it, I feel, especially if you can get them at a decent rate. Like if you're a student, there's so many programs you could get for cheap, man. I mean, cheap is never going to be better than free, but it's better because shit works, actually. So my favorite art program to use is presently Photoshop, because I've been using it, I think, for years, and it hasn't really let me down. And it's very versatile. You can do a lot with it. I'm comfortable using it. I just bought Clip Studio Paint, and I'm going to be using that for comics. And from what little bit I explored within the program, it seems really awesome, like just as good as Photoshop, if not better, if your discipline is more comic oriented. If you want to do more comic stuff, for sure Clip Studio Paint. Like Photoshop, there's ways to make comics on it, but it's like you have to jump through so many fucking hoops, at least in my experience. Clip Studio Paint makes it so much more easier, and it's pretty affordable. And the thing with Clip Studio Paint is you only have to pay for it once and it's yours. Whereas Adobe programs now, you need to have a Creative Cloud account, and you pay monthly to use them, which I don't mind because I have like a student subscription, which allows me to use literally every Adobe program for about $67 a month, which is pretty good considering it's every Adobe program. And I don't only use Photoshop, I use Audacity to record audio. I use After Effects and Premiere to put together videos and animation stuff. I've used InDesign for some projects. I'm getting to know Animate, what formerly known as Flash, just in case I get tired of TVPaint. Which, you know, sometimes I do. Bridge is also just good to just browse through certain files and stuff. And I use Illustrator for work, and I use Photoshop for work too. So Photoshop's just my favorite program because it's just everything to me. For sure, I think they're all worth buying. It just depends on what you need and what kind of discipline you have, like what's your art discipline, you know. If you're more into animation, then Animate is pretty worth. I mean, you could still bootleg TVPaint like I've been doing, but I don't, you know, sometimes I run into problems with that, and I think Animate's more I guess easier to use for beginners. And yeah, and there's also tons of free programs like SketchUp that help with like figuring out when you don't want to do perspective yourself. And yeah, there's just so many good programs out there, and it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to do more like painterly stuff, really photo stuff and all that, Photoshop. If you want to do more comic stuff and illustrative stuff too, Clip Studio Paint is your go-to. If you want good recording software, Audacity, honestly, it's just as good as Audition. Oh my god, did I call it Audition Audacity before? Okay, yeah, they're both very different. Adobe is Audition. Audacity is a free program you could use to edit. And they're both, to me, they're just as good. There's really barely a difference to me. If anything, I slightly prefer Audacity. I'm going on tangents. Anyway, Photoshop's my favorite, but Clip Studio Paint is becoming a close second, and it might dethrone Photoshop. And just from a monetary standpoint, I like that Clip Studio Paint is like a one-time purchase. So yes, for sure, it's worth buying software. And even I think for the iPad, you have Procreate, which is even cheaper. It's like $10 and it's yours. Like, that's fucking awesome. Like, these days, our programs they're becoming more and more affordable and more accessible, so there's really no reason not to buy them. But there's still free ones out there if you want to just start practice. Like, I used to use GIMP way back when, and Fire Alpaca, and yeah, and I think there's Medibang too. I'm not sure if that's free, but anyway, there's lots to dabble in, but ultimately Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint are fucking the best, in my opinion. Just in my opinion. Yeah, so I guess my top 5 would be Photoshop, Premiere Pro. I like TVPaint to animate. I have a love-hate relationship with it though. Clip Studio Paint, and it's like a tie between Animate and After Effects. Yeah, hope that helped you out, and thanks for the question. Cat Janine, I'm so sorry. How long did it take you? Oh yeah, on Instagram. How long did it take you to find your style? I'm guessing art style. My friends have art styles, and I feel excluded. Sad face. The thing is, my art style, I feel like it sort of changes a bit every time. I've never in my life felt like I really had an art style because I'm pretty eclectic when it comes to art. I feel like I'm not trying to humble brag at all. I'm just trying to be objective. I can do any art style really, and sometimes it sort of leans one way or the other. So honestly, don't even feel bad if you don't have an art style, because an art style is only a shortcut of drawing. Learn how to draw like real stuff. Draw from life. And the more you keep drawing, the more sooner or later you're going to realize, oh shit, I'm using the same kinds of shortcuts, and that is going to be your art style. I hope I'm making sense here. It just takes time, really, and it kind of just happens. Before you know it, you're like, oh, I guess this is my art style now. And sometimes even that will change eventually. Even if you look at comic book artists, for example, J. Scott Campbell, when he was working on Danger Girl versus how he draws now, it's very different. Your style's going to refine and refine and refine, and 10 years from now, it's going to be completely different than how it is like tomorrow, say. So don't even feel bad if you feel like you don't have an art style or if you haven't found it, because it's going to find you. Focus first on drawing well, and the rest is just going to happen. At least my experience. I've seen people go from not knowing how to draw to practicing how to draw, and then they kind of just have an art style now. It sort of happens because that's what art styles are. They're just shortcuts of how to draw from life. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense. But yeah, man, don't even feel excluded. It's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen in no time at all. Like, Just focus on bettering your technique, and then like the rest will fall into place. I hope that helped, and I hope that made sense. One maniacal laugh on Instagram asked, cosplaying? I guess you're asking me if I cosplay? Because I sort of do. I have. I don't do it as much anymore because it's an expensive hobby. And I'm not exactly the most talented seamstress there is. I'm only really good at sewing buttons. Lately, I kind of just, whatever's in my closet, I make it work. And it's usually, I only have time now to do it for Halloween. But I do miss it. And I have done it before. I've cosplayed Zone Tan. I've cosplayed Alice from Alice Madness Returns. Recently, for Halloween, I was the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, it's not as much anymore, but I have, and I will continue to, but not as much. If that is your question. If your question is, can people cosplay my characters? It's always a resounding yes for me. And I'm sure you know that. So, moving on. And for the last question, we got Rosie Cullen Art on Instagram asking, who is your favorite character to draw? Of my characters or just generally? I guess of my characters, I would probably have to go with Heidi. I think Heidi is super fun to draw because she's a girl, and my preference is women when it comes to drawing because they're curvy and it's fun. It's more fun for me. There's a variety to her. There's her creature form, there's cute form, and she's pretty simple to draw too. I'm glad I kept her design simple. In general, any character that's a cute girl, I'll enjoy drawing. Especially if they have an interesting design. I'll definitely have a good time when it's drawing women. That's about all I have to say on that. Thank you all for your questions, all who submitted questions. It's super awesome of you. And if you feel like you've missed out on an opportunity to ask me something, you know what? You could either leave a question in the comment below, and I'll do my best to answer it as soon as possible. Or you could send me an ask on Tumblr. I usually answer those, not always in a timely way, but I always answer them. They will be answered. Or you could browse the answered tag on my Tumblr and see every other question I've answered ever before. So, before I wrap this video up, I'm going to make a couple of announcements or updates. I now have, as of the time this video is posted, my Patreon should be live now, as is my Ko-fi page. Ko-fi, I guess. Both are up and available. I decided to go through with making a Patreon and Ko-fi because as of late it's been pretty hard for me to work on any personal projects because, they don't really pay. It's been a bit rough. I'm a little bit, not to get too into it, but I'm in debt, as a lot of students are. And whatever time I have that's free, I use to do work that I know will pay. That's not to say I haven't been working on, say, Never Talk to Strangers or anything else. I've been sort of chipping away at it, but it's been super difficult because even the thing is, even if I do finish it, there's a good chance that when I post it on YouTube, it's gonna be demonetized because I tend to use music that is copyrighted, and that's my choice. And in the beginning, when I made Wolf Song, even when I made Heidi, like any of my videos, I never made it with the thought in mind that I'm gonna fucking make money off of this. That never happens. They're purely like, I made this thing and I want to share it out there. But it's a bit disheartening when sometimes I run into issues where people want to, like with Heidi for a while, like they wanted to private it and some people weren't able to see it, and I had to fight to get it visible again, and it super sucked. And now, so not only am I not making money off of it, but now there's some people who out there who have the power to just private my video, and that is super shitty. And it's just really discouraging, because you work hard and animation takes a long time. Even when it's something that's like Heidi that wasn't even completely finished, it's still months of work and at the fingertips of some asshole company just because I decided to use their song because it inspired me to do the thing in the first place. Even if I'm not seeing a cent from it, they could just take it away, and that's super shitty. So it's discouraging, as I'm at a point in my life right now, at least, where I can't afford to work on projects or anything that I'm passionate about because, for one thing, it's not going to pay my bills, but also if there's a chance that people might not even be able to see it in the first place, or because YouTube is a little shitty like that. Patreon, you know, I've seen it work with so many creators where people just help fund these things and just help people stay afloat. Like, I always feel weird about asking for money for things that I've, you know, put out there for free. But honestly, I'm at a point, you know, I'm not in a good place. And I know you guys really want to see the prequel, and some of you were even excited about my webcomic that I'm doing, and I wasn't able to put it out because I can't work on it because I can't afford to. So this way, if you guys want to help out, and also if it'll keep me accountable and keep me on a schedule to kind of give you things to show for it. There's like a few tiers on Patreon, and it gets you different things if you want to check it out, or maybe I'll actually read the tiers to you. That could be cool. So on Patreon, $1 gets you access to patron-only content, which includes updates, sneak previews of drawings, animation GIFs, access to projects, which would be upcoming comics and animations. These comics being comic versions of Wolfsong and Heidi, and my upcoming webcomic, which would be free to read on Webtoons, called Insolitus. And so these comics, the Wolfsong comic will be the definitive story of Lycos and Scarlet, and it will be a one-shot, and it'll be done in a traditional way. Same for Heidi. It'll be the definitive story between Thomas Todd and Heidi, featuring Keith. That will also be a one-shot, but will happen once the Wolfsong one is complete, because I'm going in order. Yeah, so $1 could get you access to these things before they're posted publicly, and Photoshop files of random panels for those of you interested in my process or how I break down my layers or whatever. And that's all for $1, so you get to see all of that stuff. Then there's the $5 tier, Alien, which gets you the aforementioned plus access to new speed drawing videos before anyone else. Speed drawing, or, you know, even speed animation videos if you like what you're seeing right now. Sneak peeks of upcoming episodes of Insolitus, deleted scenes, and scrapped concepts. So if you like the little bits that I've shown you throughout this video, probably gonna be more of that. And the $5 tier could get you that. $10 is the Witch tier, and it gets you all of the aforementioned, plus high-res images of exclusive prints featured on Patreon, and the ones featured in SpeedPaint videos, PDF files of completed chapters of Insolitus, and PDF files of completed Wolfsong and Heidi comics once they're done, and your name will appear in the credits of my animations. So you guys, your names, the $10 people, could end up in the Never Talk to Strangers video once it's done, which hopefully, you know, if I get enough money, could be done way faster than the pace I've been going. And then there's the $15 tier, which I believe is limited to 10 people. Gets you all the aforementioned, plus monthly patron-only live stream and personal sketch emailed to you of one of my characters. So there's that. So my goal is at least $1,500 a month first off, and this should kind of help me get out of this debt that I'm in, cover my basic expenses, and help me work full-time on comics and animations. And then if I get to 2,000, I could actually hire someone to help me color backgrounds or clean up my animations, or maybe even color my animations. Maybe the Wolfsong prequel could actually be colored instead of just black and white like I've been, planning. There's a lot of potential here. Even if 1% of my subscribers gave me $1, I'd be debt free. I would be debt free. I'm not even joking. So I'm not trying to pressure anybody. This is purely your own volition. If this interests you, if you want to see where I'm going with these projects, if you want to be in the know, if you want to keep me accountable, keep me afloat, and help me bring this content to you in a slightly faster way, hopefully, then this is a good way to do it. And even if it's just $1, holy shit, that's awesome. You're awesome. You're all awesome. And if you don't like the Patreon thing, or if you're not interested in the tiers or what that gets you, and you just want to, buy me a coffee, I have a Ko-fi page. So Patreon is, like anything, patreon.com/DanyDarkly. Ko-fi is kofi.com/DanyDarkly, I believe. Anyway, the links will all be in the description below, and any little bit helps. I'm like super serious. And I realize like not everyone has a whole lot, and that's why my tiers are really cheap, because I get it. But in any case, even if you just share these pages or if you spread the word out there, that's also super helpful. But even just being a subscriber and watching my stuff, that helps, and I'm super grateful. I'm grateful to all 50k of you or more at this point of time. I think it's super dope that just like have this much interest in what I do, and even if I believe what I do isn't that great or worth the attention it's getting, I'm never gonna not be thankful for it. And you all been super lovely too. I do read the comments, and most of you are just really positive, and I'm just really thankful to have a really cool audience from a variety of places too. Just, it's awesome. Also, thank you to everyone who's been showing me fan art and just sending me love, all that. It really does help me out a lot, and it reminds me of just how much people love what I do and how that's affected them in such a positive way. It's super cool. I'm not gonna get emotional. Fuck. But yeah, so that's all I got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video where I answer questions. And thanks again for joining me on this journey of creativity and weird stories that I want to tell. Thank you for enjoying my stories, and just thank you so much for the support and for being here. It's awesome. I hope you guys all have an excellent day, and more content hopefully soon, and stay awesome. Bye.